I'm gonna shut my lamp off. Alrighty. It should be live. Yay!
Right. Hello,
Yay,
everyone.
technology.
It's so smart, it's dumb. It's great.
How are you doing?
Oh, girl, just to be honest, I'm tired and exhausted and stressed, but I'm okay. It's gonna all be all right. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
I think we're all kind of feeling the same way, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm definitely ready to get to November and see what we're working with.
So my question is, I know this is kind of off topic, but if Trump wins the election through hook or by crook, what's everybody's post-Trump election plan?
I think that if Trump wins again, we have to focus on our down ballot, our state and local officials, and hope that they protect us from a fascist government. I myself have been encouraging people to get supplies, stock up a little bit. You don't know. I mean, it's just scary. So
yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, my first thought is to get the hell out, but as a single mom with 3 kids, it's more of a dream right now than it is a reality, but I'm still working towards that. In the meantime, though, I've been doing kind of the same thing, stocking up, making sure I have my tribe, making sure my girls are, informed about the world around them, and just literally just making, I made a status a while ago about making my home my castle. And that's not, just for comfortability's sake, but also, defense. I went and bought a camera so I could put that around my house. And I've just been really trying to make sure that, whatever goes down, we have our best chance possible of surviving. Isn't it crazy? We got to talk like that right now.
It is. It feels, I don't know, so scary and surreal. And then sometimes I think I have to focus, am I a conspiracy theorist? Is this reality? Or and you have to put yourself in check and really think it. And then you think it through and I'm like, no, this is really scary stuff that's happening. So,
and ignoring it doesn't make it go away. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So one of my mottos is don't be scared, be prepared. And not saying that fear isn't still there, but it feels much better when you feel like you have some kind of empowerment over your circumstances. So I just been trying to do what I can where I can.
Yeah. And so we got some folks online now. So let's introduce to those who are watching who may not know. We have with us Schmeeka Grayer, and she does all kinds of things. She is the Meeka of Doug and Meeka. She does all kinds of North Omaha advocacy work. I know some of the things that you've worked on was in the state legislature with the LB 147 and stopping the child restraint legislation that Grony is so hell bent on trying to push forward. And yeah, just tons and tons of stuff. You're also with the people to elect Ernie Chambers.
The people for Ernie Chambers write-in campaign. Yes.
Right.
That's what we've been working real hard on for the past, really since July. I was contacted by Dr. Asiko Swami, who actually ran for the Douglas County Commissioner seat, got 30% of the vote. And then felt that, since he wasn't able to get in and he was actually endorsed by Ernie Chambers, which Ernie has only endorsed 2 people in his entire career. And Dr. Asiko Swami was one of those people. And then Terrell McKinney, who is running for state legislator in Legislative District 11, where Ernie has done wondrous works. He endorsed Terrell McKinney to take his seat there as well. Once again, like I said, that's something Ernie doesn't do. It's one of his common sayings is, I don't anoint and I don't appoint. But he realized that it was, very beneficial to these candidates to throw his weight behind them, or at least his name. And he did that. So I was contacted by Dr. Asit after he got 30% of the Douglas County Commissioners vote to help organize a petition drive for Ernie. And so we, jumped in right away and started organizing, started holding circulatory classes, started getting out there, even in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. Shout out to all of my volunteers who are just very brave and very courageous and believe in Ernie. Like the amount of type of people, the different types of diverse groups that believe in Ernie is just an amazing thing. They like to call him a racist. And then with this new stuff with the governor's wife, they wanted to call him a sexist and all these other things. But literally, I have seen people from all walks of life come and join this campaign. LGBTQ, youth, older people, white, Black, Native. He's just a person that inspires so much. And everything that he touches, has greatness, that resounds around it. And Ernie himself is such a plain person. Like, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. He'll tell you, I don't, chase after women or men. You know what I'm saying? He literally does his work and puts his whole life into the work that he's doing, and then he goes home and then he wakes up and he's all over again. So I was really excited to be able to help with that petition drive. Unfortunately, we lost by 364 signatures. It is what it is. There's a lot going on even with that. Angie, I know I was telling you a little bit of what everything, was transpiring, but we did the best we could. Like I said, during a pandemic, it was hard. My petitioners were getting kicked out of Walmart every time they turned around, and we didn't have the kind of free range of motion that we would have had before a pandemic. So I'm really proud of the efforts that we put forth. And I feel like, that helped set the stage for the write-in campaign, which is what we're now coordinating. As the campaign coordinator, once again, we've just been trying to make the community aware. I really feel like Ernie's name speaks for itself. And of course, we still have a platform. He definitely wants to combat the new Juvenile Justice Center and do some real reforms in juvenile justice work, which is not anything new for Senator Chambers. If you're aware of the work Senator Chambers has already done, he one of the main people that tried to stop the death penalty. And that actually went all the way through the legislature and was vetoed by Governor Ricketts. He's the person who introduced bills to not allow mentally disabled juveniles to be tried as an adult. I mean, he actually is the person who introduced the bill to make sure that our food wasn't taxed. Like Ernie's impact has been felt from here to South Africa. He was one of the only state senators that led Nebraska to cutting off international ties and intranational ties with those who believed and supported apartheid in South Africa. So once again, was just really excited to hop on the write-in campaign for him. If you've been looking around North Omaha, you'll see that there are billboards, there are yard signs out. We've been doing some canvassing. I'm sure people have been good. Have you gotten a flyer in the mail, a campaign flyer, Angie? Because I know you're in his district.
I don't think so for Senator Chambers yet.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, those are out there.
But sometimes Alice, my little one, gets the mail and then I find it later. So
I understand. I get it. So yeah, we've just been hitting it hard once again with the COVID pandemic. It's kind of touch and go, how much we try to engage the public personally. It's just so hard right now to just do any of this stuff. But yeah, we've just been real excited to support Ernie, and, hopefully he wins. But if he doesn't win, we know it's not because he is not a good candidate for that position or that he is not qualified or any of that. It's just the circumstances surrounding this particular time politically. It's hard, particularly for a write-in campaign. So yeah,
I think that everybody that has anything to do with elections this year, it's like there's this happened and then COVID, or this, but then COVID. It's almost like two completely different things. It just completely changed the way everybody can campaign and get out the information. And yeah, just from a safety aspect. So, but I'm super excited. I actually went, was it yesterday or the day before, and voted and wrote in Ernie Chambers.
Yay! Woo!
Yes.
To the people.
So I was excited. I wrote him in, and then I also wrote in Preston Love. And
Awesome.
to be honest, I think these might have been the first time I wrote in candidates. So, but yeah, it was definitely exciting. And I know one of the reasons that I'm excited for Senator Chambers is because having watched him in the legislature and seeing that he really is focused on doing what's best for all of the people, and he really wants to serve and work for the people. It's not like a glory role for him. It's about serving his community. And I would also love to see him in action on the Douglas County Commission when it comes to opposing the new juvenile justice system, and then also just reform altogether. I definitely think that he would be much wiser on how we spend money, and he'd be way more in touch with our community as far as like what we're looking for. Because especially lately, the last couple of things that keep coming out with the Douglas County Board, you're just like, do they know us? Do they ever come over here? Because it just feels very out of touch. So
absolutely. And the one thing about Senator Chambers, he never does anything for glory. He doesn't, even on this campaign, which, it's a two-way kind of thing. It's a blessing and a curse. Senator Chambers is not a campaigner. He won't be out kissing babies for, likes and loves and cameras. And he has this moral compass, that drives him. And he can't be bought or sold. He's not looking for anyone to, check out his new suit because he doesn't wear those. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to show up at your church and make empty promises that to you, where you've never seen him before. And then here you are, it's election time. Ernie is just very, very real about his politics. He will be a one-man protest, and has done that numerous of times. He will, protest the legislator himself while on, he's just that kind of person that is not afraid. And I think that's what inspires me the most about him, is that not only is he educated and intelligent, I think on so many levels, like a lot of the stuff that Ernie says, I feel people respond negatively to it only because they don't understand it. Not necessarily that he's trying to be mean or anything like that, but he's just a well-learned person. And he's so courageous. He's been fighting this fight sometimes by himself since he was a young man. In North Omaha, he got fired from the post office because of some racial inequality. And that was his first protest there, and he used his position at the barbershop he was at to educate the people in the community. And even, like I said, on the state legislature, his scope is not small. It's not just, what I'm working on today or what I'm working on in this particular area. Not only does he care about the constituents in LD 11 and Douglas County District 3, once again, he has this global perspective that even includes the wildlife and, climate change and all kinds of things. So a lot of people feel like Ernie is too old, but then I'm like, come on, man, look at these presidents y'all done put in front of us. They're all 70 plus, about to die of heart attacks. And I'm not going to cuss, but I'm just saying, like, if we have someone who's good at job and good at what they're doing, and they still have the mental capability to do it, and we don't have, very few people to replace that kind of greatness, Ernie, if he wants to, spend his life fighting for the people, what better way to live and or die, in my opinion, God forbid that happen. But so.
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we think about, get these old people out of office, what we're really thinking is the old ideas, you know. But Senator Chambers isn't that type of older person. I mean,
He was
he's
progressive before there was a progressive. Like,
yeah,
he's never been one to be boxed in by anything that, feels controlling to him, including religion. A lot of people don't like that. But if we have freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and then, Ernie deserves that same respect. He still has the constitutional right to be a human being and to run for office, whether or not he's religious or is in a church or not. And as long as you treat people right, I think that's what the main message is, that Jesus was trying to say is love your neighbor. You know what I mean? And Ernie has
right.
definitely been the person to love his neighbor near and far. So
Awesome. We've got some comments going, so I want to check through them. So, let's see. Cindy says the president has been building doubt in the election process and sowing distrust among Americans. It's important we recognize that it isn't conspiracy to acknowledge it. Yeah. So there has been a lot of mistrust. I know for me, even, there's some mistrust, which is why I chose to go in and do early person voting, because even though I feel like, our voting is very safe, there was just something about me that was like, oh, I don't want to mess around with the mail. And I don't want to, I just want to go in, have it filled out and have it turned in right away. So, and then you and I had kind of talked a little bit about, and I had a friend call and check in about how some of the polling places and stuff in North Omaha have changed, largely in part because of COVID. And a friend of mine had actually contacted the Secretary of State for me and asked some questions about that. And a lot of it's like some of our polling places over here were like at retirement facilities, which obviously with COVID, you can't be hosting elections there. Different churches had, some concerns about hosting during COVID. And so it's ended up being like a lot of polling places changed. And you were the one that actually brought that to my attention the other day when we were talking. So
my thing is, if we are saying, okay, because of COVID, we're not going to have these polling places because we don't want to endanger, the particular voters, that should not include disenfranchising the voters from being able to vote. There are models all across the United States, particularly Texas, and I forget what county it was, but they are doing an amazing work there. There's a judge, I think a Latino judge, and I'm not good at retaining names and stuff like that sometimes, but they have drive-through voting. You know what I'm saying? They got a fleet of 10,000 cars ready to come take people to the polls, pick up their stuff. Mail-in voting, online voting. There's all these different avenues and mechanisms in the age of technology, right, that we could use to ensure that this very important civil right still remains in the hands of those that aren't rich, that don't have transportation, that may not have internet access. So for me to hear, yeah, I'm taking away your polling place for your safety, but not actually instituting something as a proper substitute to make sure that you still are able to exercise your constitutional right to vote, sounds kind of disingenuous to me and a little more like voter suppression.
Because you feel like while you might understand that the, retirement village can't host, there should be an effort to ensure that other means are put into play. I was just going to try and find that because I had the number on how many polling places changed here. But I wish that there was a larger education piece because like I talked to my neighbors and I had family members just call me today, and there is some confusion on like, when can I vote? How do I vote? Is the mail safe? Like, what is my polling place? So I'll make sure that we do post links here as far as checking your voter registration and where you're supposed to poll at. I know that the last day to request a mail-in ballot,
October 23rd.
23rd.
And the last day to register to vote is tomorrow, October 16th. So that's it. If you're not registered by tomorrow, into business, then you're not going to be able to participate. And I would like to say to all of my people that are feeling like voting doesn't help, I completely understand that. And I'm not even going to judge you for that, because especially as a Black person in the United States of America, even now, it's not history, it's a present day fact. Voter suppression is happening everywhere, all across the country. We vote people in and they forget about us, or they never really represented us in the beginning. What I would say to those people, though, who would say, voting doesn't work, even if it doesn't work, it's guaranteed not to work if you don't do it. If it was going to work, it's guaranteed not to work if you don't do it. Also, I would suggest go ahead and just knocking that out, because then there's no excuse. You know what I'm saying? If we come out in droves and we still don't get our issues represented or addressed, then they can't use that excuse. Is what they like to use on particularly Black people, poor people. You know what I'm saying? Well, you didn't vote and you don't have a say. Vote. So when they say that, you can say, oh, yes, we came out in, record numbers to vote, and still, then you have that argument, and still things haven't changed. And once again, we can act like, I don't believe that the government is our savior in any point. I think at the bottom line, it's our job to make sure our communities are safe, and that starts with each and every home. It's our job to make sure that we are educating ourselves. I don't expect the government to give me the power to overthrow them. I don't expect the government to give me the power to be smarter than them. What I do expect, though, is that I want better for myself and I want better for my community. So that means I go out and do the work. I go out and do the research. That even itself has a little bit of privilege in it. I'm a college educated Black woman. Not everybody has the college education. I went to Creighton, shout out to the Blue Jays. Not everybody has that. So I understand that it's not always about, being able to do that research, but there are people around who are willing to help, who are willing to give out the information. If there's a scripture, I'm a preacher's daughter, so I always throw out scripture, even though I'm not. But if you knock, the door should be open, and if you seek, you shall find it. And when I wanted information about something, I found it. When I want to know where the hottest deals are on, shoes, I can Google and find that. So, at some point we have our own self-responsibility and accountability, individually and communally, to make sure that our interests and our issues are being represented. And then we also have that same responsibility to hold the government to task, to hold them accountable. It's really hard to talk about holding the government accountable when you don't know what that looks like as much, especially when you say, okay, well, you said you're going to do this for the Black community, especially Biden. Like, if Biden don't do what he say he's supposed to do, what he say he's going to do, even in Trump, if he gets into office and he doesn't do, this platinum plan, whatever. Anyway, but if they don't do the things that they say they're going to do, we have to come up communally as a way to hold these politicians accountable. And just saying, well, I'm not going to vote you back in, it's the first step. But what else are we going to do? How do we hold them accountable while they're in office? So
yeah, and that's one of the things, because I definitely believe in voting. I definitely believe in trying to get real people into office. Obviously, that's why I ran, right? But there's always, I'm like, this idea that well, vote them out, and that cannot be the only thing, because if you look at different issues that are waiting, that they can't wait for 4 years. Right now, we got people getting kicked out of their houses, and we've got people that literally can't feed their kids, and they're hungry, and they don't have health care, and they don't have child care, and they're down and out, and they're feeling hopeless. And so to act like they can just wait, we can just wait another 2 to 4 years to try to vote in new people. Yeah, there definitely has to be action beyond voting. even when
And I
you're
feel like we have real short memories. We'll elect someone and they'll make all these promises at the beginning, and then they get in there and something happens. And, I don't know if it's like the flashy thing from Men in Black or what it is, but, we'll let them, poot around for 4 years, and then they'll come back and say the same promises they said before. And somehow we'll feel all excited again. And maybe you can call me jaded. I don't know. Maybe it's just my ancestors, that I've seen over and over and over be, kind of bamboozled by the system, in the words of Malcolm X, that just have a really low threshold of like trust and faith and watching this government work. Once again, I don't think it's broken. I think it's working exactly the way it was designed to. It was designed to exclude. It was designed to discriminate. That's what the Constitution itself was based on. It was not a freedom issue. It was everybody, unless you are this particular group, 6%, then you were not considered a person deserving of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So knowing those things, and watching the system continually work the way it has throughout the years, it just seems to me that we have to come up with a better way as the people, for the people, to make sure we're represented properly, make sure our issues are on the table, make sure we hold those that we put in office accountable. Once again, I'm open to suggestions for what that looks like. I think the protests and the uprisings are a great way to do that. We saw some real, I'm going to say real changes. We'll see how systemic they are. But I was really excited to see that people were saying, hey, I'm willing to put my life on the line for my freedoms. This is what, we have been taught all through school, that these brave, colonizers came and fought for our freedoms. Well, I think we should colonize our own ideas, and I think we should colonize our own ways to make sure our communities are safe. And I think we should make our own flag and put our own proverbial flag and put our own stamp, what it is that we want to see our politicians do and what we want our communities to look like. I think that that's our job. And if we keep allowing them to, do our job, we can't get mad when they do what they want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And we have gone on for hours and hours together about how this system was not set up for women, was not set up for anybody but rich white men, landowners, even at that. Mm-hmm. And there's one, when we talk about things like the system and even like the police and stuff like that, one of the word is escaping me. The things that you use to talk about it is the planting of the apple tree. I can repeat it, but you say it better. So,
well, if the tree is poisoned, what happened is that, in 1776, there was a seed planted in the United States of America. And that seed said freedom on the seed, but the seed that was planted was not a freedom seed. It was a seed that says, this freedom only exists for this small amount of white land owning males. So that same seed that has now grown into this liberty tree is still only a liberty tree for white land-owning males. It's poison to everyone else. So if you're continually giving me fruit from a poisonous tree and telling me this is as American as apple pie, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to poison me. And there's no way around that. There's no way I can say that anything that comes from this tree is going to be anything less than poisonous. There's no way I can say that anything that comes from this tree is going to be anything less than discriminatory, racial, sexist, homophobic, of course, because there was none of that allowed, even though they didn't address that then. I'm sure that was outside of their quote unquote Puritan views as they were, burning and pillaging and raping. Excuse me. So I feel like we are looking at a tree that has been poisoned from the root. The roots are poisonous. The tree is poisonous. The leaves, when they fall, they burn. Strange fruit, it's strange fruit all the time, all over again. And I'm just not into eating the poison apple anymore. I'm not into eating the apple and falling asleep until the prince comes and,
Right.
I'm not into it. I feel like at some point we need to plant new trees, and we need to plant new trees with actual seeds of freedom. And I see that happening. I just wish it was more systemic. Once again, how do we change the system? How do we change the system? Right? Other than anarchy, like for real, like how do you change? How do you uproot? How do you change a poisonous tree other than uprooting it? I don't know. I just know that the American people deserve better. Indigenous people deserve better. Women deserve better. Black people deserve better. We deserve to be listened to. We deserve to be represented. We deserve to have the same freedoms that are God-given and inherent. We don't deserve to have to keep scrapping for scraps and begging for seats at the table, especially Black people and Indigenous people. When we built that table, we don't deserve any of that. And until we decide that we want better and we will have better, they'll keep feeding us these poisonous apples.
Yeah. Right. I'm gonna catch up on some comments. Shanna, I hope I'm saying that right, says, thank you for speaking to this and organizing the write-in campaign. Ernie Chambers is a proven leader, effective, and very highly regarded for his work. Support from afar.
Thank you.
Bonnie says, Ernie Chambers did a fantastic job of discussing climate change recently. He said it's a racial justice issue. Well, lost my spot. He said it's a racial justice issue, which is spot on. Climate change is going to hurt the most vulnerable people, not only here, but in the world. Ernie's at the top of his game, has years of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, one of the things that we were talking about the other day too, is, getting back to the basics: food, water, clean air, the basic stuff. And I think that that's another thing that Senator Chambers is good at recognizing, is that the kind of that intersectional piece and how climate change and different issues impact different communities differently.
Oh, yeah. Well, once again, this poisonous tree has many layers to it. So, racial injustice and classism impacts us all on these different, multi-layers. When you look and see that, if you go from rural Nebraska to urban Nebraska and you find the same type of disparities, then you know that things are not just about color. They're not about color. There's a lot of classism. Color is an intersectionality in that aspect. And then when you look at racism and then you see, there are wealthy Black people that still experience racism, then you know that classism is an intersectionality within race. And they feed off of each other. They're like branches, right? That main trunk, and they branch off into all these poisonous, tree limbs. And then the biggest part of that is that it only takes one seed. It only takes one seed to plant a poisonous tree that, produces all these mini apples with poisonous seed in them, all this poisonous fruit. So when I look and I see, okay, I have bad internet access where I live because I live in an impoverished area, and I live in South Omaha. And then you go down north and they have bad internet access in their impoverished areas too. Then it's not necessarily about a race thing there, but it is a race thing still, because these areas generally hold Black and brown people of color with, very little resources. But to keep it, in my opinion, the nation that have the best type of constituents have focused on, the best citizenry, have focused on the basics that don't matter what color you are. We all need to eat. We all need water. We all need shelter. These are the kind of things that was talked about in the 10-point plan with the Black Panther Party, but those type of issues span color lines, they span genders, they span sexuality, orientation. We all have to eat. We all need air. We all need food. We all need water. And the fact that Ernie is able to, once again, not only deal with racial issues at the state legislature, but even care about the mountain lions and care about economic disparities in North Omaha and racial injustice here. And then also, span that and go to women's rights. He's just such a prolific man. Like, between him and Malcolm X, those are like my two Nebraska heroes. And how fortunate are we that we have their legacies, that their seeds were planted here. It's just great. I love them. But yeah, we need to go back to basics. Yes, Angie, food, water, shelter. Absolutely.
Well, and I think, when I was campaigning, that's a statewide message. Like, it didn't matter what area I went into. It was like, I'm a Nebraskan trying to feed myself and my kids and put a roof over my head. And everybody understood that. Everybody, that was common ground, for all of us. And then, sometimes I felt like I could find common ground with them there, and we could have that discussion, and they could, gain trust and that type of relationship. And then you can move on to some of the more complex issues like race or abortion or, some of those other issues. Once you connect on that very human level of, we all need to eat, we all need clean air, clean water, food, and safe places for ourselves and our kids. So, comments are going off. All right. Shanna says, hit the nail on the head, Miss Schmeeka. Without safe polling replacement, what are they doing besides removing access? Cindy posted some links so that you can check your voter registration ballot status and polling locations. Thank you, Cindy. We have a quote, plant new trees with seeds of freedom. She's quoting you and calling it wisdom.
Thank you.
Laura, my mom, says, thank you, Meeka, for sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you, Angie, for bringing us the opportunity to learn. And Shauna says, I hope I'm saying her name right. It's either Shanna or Shauna. I'm not sure, but I wish the classism aspect of the pervasive poison were heard by more rural Americans. Very grateful for this discussion. The 10-point platform is so relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that we could touch ground. You and I have talked about but COVID, but if we could just, go out west and talk to some of like my friends and family out there about, and like start making those connections about just being human and all needing the same things. And because it is different out there as opposed to here. And then they don't have a lot of them, like my dad, where he lives, he doesn't have outside influence, really. You know what I'm saying? There's no
a lot of brainwashing.
Yeah. And then you got like big oil in there, like with all their magazines and their free whatever, saying all kinds of off the wall stuff and not true things. And then you get their representatives in there that just don't want to take responsibility. So they just blame other people. They blame, either the poor people in the city, or they blame people of color, or they blame immigrants, or they blame, just whoever they can push it off to. And I think that a lot of folks out in rural Nebraska were struggling financially really badly. And I think that kind of left like these little vacuum areas where it left room for kind of this fascist white supremacist ideal to start taking hold. And a
lot of people don't understand that Hitler came into power because he capitalized off of the ruins of his country. You know what I'm saying? From the previous war that they were in. They also went through a pandemic, a flu pandemic. And he was able to capitalize off of fear, Fear and poverty. Fear and poverty are the two biggest things that you even see, and I see it from the right and the left, and I'm not going to spare the left anything. So if y'all were hoping to hear that, sorry. Um, but I see that people like to capitalize off of people's fear, and they capitalize off of their needs. It's also the same thing that you see in religious structures. You're going to hell if you don't do what I think is right. You're going to hell if you don't vote this way, if you don't vote for me. Listen, at the end of the day, we are all human. So I believe in complete human rights. I think human rights trump civil rights. Civil rights is a branch from human rights, right? If we understand the connection between you and I as a human, then that means we can go, like you said, further to those next connections about civil rights, race, feminism, or whatever you want to call it, women's rights, all these other rights. But it starts understanding humanity. And that happens. The reason why we don't understand humanity the way we think we should is because we are too busy dehumanizing anyone who does not share our beliefs. We dehumanize people and say, oh, those people are animals. Oh, those people aren't worth, the breath they're walking around in. And I hear this from the right and the left, and it disheartens me when I hear people go so left that they sound right. You know what I'm saying? And or if we're going to be a party, especially the Democrats, which I am no longer a Democrat and I'm independent, that is my public statement on. But if we're going to use, party taglines like diversity and inclusion, that understanding first, that we all are human on a human experience. Everybody is not going to be on the same mental level, and that has its own issues because of classism, racism, privilege. Everybody is not going to understand what you know or experience what you experience. So it's going to take a lot more love than what we have, to bring us together as human beings, because dehumanization is what, allowed Hitler to do what he did. He said that those Jews were not human. They're rabble, they're rubbish, they're this and that. That's what slavery was based off on. 3/5 of a human is what Black people were considered, no better than animals, bought, sold, and traded. Really understanding that the human rights issues are what is going to really connect us as humans, and that's what we have, and that's where we need to start our bases on. I think kind of smashes down all of those barriers of classism, racism, gender barriers, all of these things. We all need the same thing. We all need food, water, shelter, and really love. We all need that. Until we understand that, as human beings, and we keep pointing our fingers at each other and saying, I'm a better human than you, instead of, doing the best we can as humans as we can on this earth, because I make mistakes. I haven't always thought the right things about things. I had to grow. I had to do a lot of soul searching on a lot of issues, and I still will continue. I don't feel like growing is a destination. It's a process and a journey. So as we continue to grow as humans and we focus on those issues that we all share, I feel like we'll have a lot better world. It'll be a lot better place on the planet for us. I don't know. That was my soapbox. Thanks for listening.
I think I love visiting with you about life in general, because I feel like I do learn so much from you.
Thank you.
Just in your wisdom of life and your knowledge, and just the way that you think. And I know that, it's good for me because I am a humanist, you know what I mean? And so like, I hold these values that all life is valuable, and to try and recognize that we're all inherently connected, and, we'll succeed together or we'll fail together. And even though those are, to me, what some folks consider, their religion to them, like it's really easy to fall into that, like, oh my God, what the hell's wrong with this person? What a piece of shit,
Right.
and to just kind of be ready to throw away the whole person. And I think, as we move forward, a lot of us are expanding so much energy that it becomes even harder to try and keep that love and that wanting to listen, and that, because sometimes it just feels like it's easier to be like, man, screw you, and, you know,
Right.
be done with it. So I appreciate your energy and the fact that you're always willing to like be that person to offer the love and
Thank you.
the education. So
Thank you. I appreciate, people listening. Like sometimes you have all this like built up inside. I mean, and that's why I do Doug and Meeka, Mind and Soul Radio, 101.3 FM. Shameless plug, not shameless. We come on Wednesdays, 3 p.m. We talk a lot about community issues. We definitely delve into politics. And like I said, there are some things that I'm still growing patience with. There's some ignorance that I don't, really tolerate, like pedophilia. I got kids. So,
right.
Some of those things can cause you to lose your human life around me if you bring that kind of nonsense around me. Just facts. But there are issues that as we grow as human beings that we really need to be, I feel like, more helpful with each other. And, shout out to all the people of color dealing with, like all the emotional labor explaining racism. Shout out to all the women dealing with all the emotional labor, explaining misogyny and patriarchy. Shout out, to all the people who have still kept that kind of spark inside of them that says, hey, I want to help you grow as a person and not kill you. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't think the way I think. That's a hard road. That's a hard road. It requires, me to, especially just to speak on myself. I have to really check my ego a lot and not think that I'm smarter than anybody because I have, a little something. Because there's always something that I don't know. There's always more information to know. There's always Erykah Badu. She says, the man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all. And, I kind of take that to heart a lot when I get in my ego and think, oh, I know this. There's whole scientific processes that I have not, I can't even expand my brain around. I can't tell you how the sun, you know what I'm saying, makes the earth grow plants, so there's tons of stuff that I still need to know. But what I do know is that people were patient with me when I was ignorant, and that people loved me when I felt unlovable. So I tried to give that same energy back. I get really disheartened just kind of looking at our country and seeing just the negative slant it's on. Even when we speak about positive things, it's negatively portrayed, or, it's so divisive. If you, just if you don't believe like me, then I hate you type stuff. It's just not going to do anything good for our country. We're going to find ourselves in the middle of a civil war. I really feel that way. I feel that that's how this country was started, in war. And if we don't change it, that might be how it ends. But we have the power to change that. So you look like you're looking at comments.
Yeah. Sorry, they flashed up. I was listening to you too, but I wanted to make sure. Just getting some love in there. Deb, I so appreciate your clarity. Meeka, Marty says, thank you so much. Or thank you, Schmeeka. Just some love and some thank yous. How do we spread humanist values to rural Nebraska and beyond?
I think first by being a good human. That's where it all starts. Like, someone told me I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. And so, if you're not a good human yourself, whatever that means, then you won't be able to give those vibes out to anyone. But, it's hard for like a person like me to be connected to rural Nebraska. Like, my biggest connection I have to anyone in rural Nebraska are the few people that I know that I've came across through in life, like you, Angie. I've thought about that too. Like, how can I, really help open the eyes of people in rural Nebraska as a Black female? You know what I'm saying? How could I, and I don't get a chance to go out there too often. And the times that I have was with the Democratic Party. And I appreciate those times because I was able to connect with some rural Nebraskans. And lo and behold, they weren't all racist, fascist pigs, And I think that's the brainwashing on both sides. They're telling rural Nebraska that the urban, they're degenerate thugs and they're going to come rape your wife, and then they tell us on the urban side that all those people hate you over there. And once again, it's that division, that divide and conquer, because that's the best way to do it. The Poor People's Campaign with Martin Luther King, when he spoke out about Vietnam and when he started working on the Poor People's Campaign, that was shortly before he died. Malcolm X, when he went and took his trek to Mecca and he came back and he said, you know what, leave your religion at home. Let's come to the table. I'm sorry for how I talked to that young Caucasian woman when she asked to help. I wish I could talk to her again about how we could all come to the table. Then he was shot. If you look through all throughout history, it's anybody that has ever tried to join everyone together, men, women, female, male, Black, white, whatever, non-binary, whatever you are. Anytime people try to bring us all together is when you're considered a threat. You're not considered a threat when you're divisive. That's exactly what the system is set up for you to do, is to divide. From the seed, it was planted. It was a dividing seed. So just knowing that, when you do come across somebody who may be filled with hate, I'm not saying to be the person to always just, lay down your life for love. I don't believe in that. I believe in self-defense. If you try to come hurt me or my children, I will protect myself. But I also know that I don't have to dumb myself down to anyone's level because that's where you are. And I can still operate on my highest frequencies, regardless of where I am. I'm in rural Nebraska or urban Nebraska. Like my mom said, I want y'all to be able to operate from in the crack house to the White House. And that's something that I've always just remembered. Like wherever I am is I'm a representative for what my beliefs are.
Yeah, I think that there's been some organizations on a more national level that have been doing some what they're calling deep canvassing, where they're trying to go into areas that have like large Trump supporters or are seen as, more like rural, like tiny rural Western Nebraska, and start having those deeper conversations. And I think that would be super awesome if we could get some things going like that in Nebraska. And I think that one way, like you said, start with ourselves. But I know there are a lot of people right now that are struggling, and I'm going to speak about white people. So white people like me, there's a lot of us that are struggling as far as like, we want to be a voice and try to help our family that doesn't see things our way. But sometimes, I guess there's just a balance between who's ready to have the conversations, who's ready to talk about this, and then who isn't ready to hear it. And then you kind of have to find your boundaries and set up like these complex relationships, because you don't want to, like, there are some family members where I'm not going to validate, the way that they talk and the way that they think by continuing to be a direct part of their life. But then there's other family members where they're willing and they're ready to have these discussions at a more deeper level. And when I put forth the effort to have conversations, like with my dad, I mean, we have we disagree on almost everything in life. And but we've had deep conversations and lots of breakthroughs when it comes to things like immigration and the Black Lives Matter movements and the police, protests and things like that. And it's because my dad may be in, tiny little town, Nebraska, where he's hearing this stuff, but he knows his daughter, and he's like, I know that my daughter is not hanging out with a bunch of people going down and burning stuff, right? So I think having those conversations open is really important. Oh, are you still there? I think I froze for a minute.
Yeah. Okay. It froze. Yeah.
Oh, I think your mic is sounding a little Darth Vader-y. Oh.
People are family over little news. I think can you hear me?
It's sounding weird, kind of like Darth Vader-y.
Okay.
Darth Vader, I don't know his name.
Is that better?
Little.
Okay.
Talk a little.
Okay. All right. Did you hear anything I said earlier? Just now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I looked up the definition of a leader one day, and it literally means to take somebody by the hand and move them forward. And I think that's what we miss when we're trying to influence people with our views. You don't get to just go scream at people and tell them you're wrong, you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? You're this and yeah.
Oh, damn. I think our connection.
Proximity, where are you? Are you in that?
Meeka, I think your connection went bad.
Hello.
I think the connection is not good right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait. Now you seem fine. Maybe we should say something.
Okay.
Oh, now you're
okay. Okay.
Now you're okay.
To be a leader and take somebody by the hand, that requires a couple things. It requires proximity. You can't take somebody by the hand that you're not around. So that's the biggest issue I see in urban and rural, is that, once again, because everyone is so isolated with their own, brainwashings. And I see it in the urban community too. It's not just a rural thing. Because we're so isolated, we don't have those leaders, from another school of thought to come and take somebody by the hand. We're not in the proximity. So it's cool that those people are going down to, the rural areas, because that puts you in proximity. That's the first thing. And then to take them by the hand requires intimacy. So that establishes some kind of relationship. I can't come, it's kind of like a parent, an absentee parent who was never there, and then they just show up and want to start screaming at you about everything you did wrong and want to beat you. You don't have the relationship to do that, to criticize. You don't have the relationship with that particular person to be able to, quote unquote, give them constructive criticism. For you to stand, in a place where you have never been in proximity and have never decided to establish relationship, that makes you an unrighteous judge, as the Bible would say. You think you're better than them. You are on this ego trip. You have not asked them any of their opinions. You have not helped, them get out of a bad situation. You have not decided to walk in their shoes to the best of your ability. You haven't done any of that, but yet you feel you have the right to go stand and yell at somebody or tell them that they're wrong and that everything they think is wrong. That's not how leaders work. To be a true leader, you take somebody by the hand and you move them forward. So I need to be able to, one, come to you, two, establish those relationships where you trust me, where you trust my word, where you can see my actions and how they align with my words. And then I need to have a plan of forward movement. A lot of what we're talking about too is, okay, I do come in, let's say I do those other things. I do come in, establish relationship. I come in proximity. But if I'm telling you that you're wrong, show me something that works better. Where is the plan of forward movement? Some of us be moving backwards and we want people to go with us backwards. That's not leadership. So once again, as we look at being a human, it's really connecting on that human. How would I want somebody to talk to me if I was wrong? You know what I'm saying? How would I want somebody to approach me if I was doing something problematic? That would help me understand, not judge me into this, or not bully me into this, or fear base me, but literally help me change my mindset, which can change my life, which I could connect with someone else and change their lives too. It's a big work being a leader. It's not, for the weak hearted. It's not for the faint. And if you really want to go in and change the way people think, checking yourself is your first thing. And then put yourself in that place. The darkness doesn't need you to scream at it that it's dark. It already knows that. You just go be the light. That's all you got to do.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I could talk to you forever, but it's a little after 9, and I want to respect your time and everybody else's time. So just to summarize, back up, kind of swoop back around to Senator Chambers. I'm just always going to call him Senator Chambers because that's who he is to me. But swooping back around to him. So it's Douglas County Commissioner, District 3, right?
District 3, which the boundaries are north of Dodge, east of 60th, if you live within these boundaries, west of Interstate 80, west of the river, south of Interstate 680. So is that 680 by you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, I get that. I'm slightly dyslexic. Well, no fact about me, so I get those kind of confused. But so if you're within those boundaries, which includes Terrell McKinney's boundaries, if you're in Legislative District 11, you're in Ernie Chambers' district, and I'm just calling it his district because that's what it's going to be. If you're in Ben Gray's district, you're in Ernie Chambers' district. If you see Chris Rogers on your ballot, that means you're in Ernie Chambers' district, and you should fill in the bubble and write in Ernie's name. That's what you should do.
Yes. Like I did the other day. I'm excited. I definitely driving around my neighborhood. I see lots of signs and lots of stuff. So hopefully we're getting the information out. What can folks do if they want to help you spread the word?
Oh, absolutely. If you could go to Facebook, we have the people for Ernie Chambers on Douglas County Board. You can always shoot us a message there and check that Facebook page for volunteer opportunities. We're selling t-shirts if you want a yard sign, if you want to help us canvassing with the McKinney campaign every Sunday from 4 to 7. You can visit 5001 North 42nd Street. Once again, there will be an event and information about that on the Facebook page Sunday from 4 to 7. Of course, wear your mask. But we do want to go out and try to connect with the people in these districts that, once again, don't have internet access, are low on transportation. Everybody doesn't have the privilege of just hopping on the computer and finding out, the newest information about the candidates. So we're going to make sure we stay connected to disenfranchised voters. This Saturday, and I don't have all the details in front of me, but the Heartland Workers Center is putting together kind of a citywide canvas informational event. That's going to be awesome. They're going to be feeding the volunteers after that. But this is basically to make sure people understand what the deadlines are with vote by mail. Once again, October 23rd. Early voting, of course, is open. You can go down to the Douglas County Election Commission and cast your vote at the polls early. And just keep spreading the word. The only way that Ernie is going to lose is because people don't know. It's not because he doesn't have support.
Right. You never run into anybody and you're like, Senator Chambers, and they're like, man, has something bad, especially here in North Omaha, everybody loves him. So even I remember it was probably 2 years ago or something. I was like sitting at my mom's house, and an aunt and her boyfriend from Western Nebraska were visiting, and Senator Chambers' name came up, and I thought, oh God, here we go. I'm going to have to fight. Right. And they were like, oh, we love him. And I was like, really? I was like, oh, people just like him.
Because he's real. He's real. Yeah. I respect a real racist any day over a closet racist. And that has nothing to do with Ernie. But I'm just saying, when he comes to the table, he comes with the real. He's not there to bamboozle you or to make you think, he's something he's not. He doesn't kiss anybody's ass. Real recognize real. That's the saying in our community, is real recognize real. And real people recognize the realness in Senator Chambers. So definitely spread the word, even if you're not in his district. Tell a friend, did you know that Ernie is running for Douglas County Commissioner, District 3? Write him in. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Angie, for having me on.
Thank you. And you want to plug Doug and Meeka one more time?
Sure. Doug and Meeka, Mind and Soul Radio. We're community talk radio. So next Wednesday, 3 p.m., 101.3 FM. We're going to be having Pastor Ballard from Assembly of the Saints. He has a church North 24th Street. His church is doing marvelous things. They are going to be setting up a hot food breakfast program. They have a pantry that they're running out of their church. They're just doing a whole bunch of great stuff. So we always try to highlight what's going on in the community. So Pastor Ballard will be there. And then next Wednesday, October 27th or 28th, after this last week, we're going to be having James Scurlock Sr., the father of James Scurlock, rest in peace, who was killed during the uprisings here in downtown Omaha. He specifically asked to come on the show to produce a timeline of Don Klein's activities concerning his son's death from the time his son was killed until Jake Gardner's supposed suicide, which we still have no proof of. So we're gonna
and I know people are like, well, it takes a while to get a death certificate. I'm like, okay, but this has made national headlines that you can't expedite this along. And I know when the what's his name, Frederick, the special prosecutor, when he held the press conference, he had said, like, he was supposed to hold it that one day, and then he changed it to the next day because he had said he had been hoping that he would get some kind of paperwork or information or whatever, and hadn't. And I'm like, if the lawyer is thinking it can be expedited, then I don't know. So that will be interesting to listen to Mr. Scurlock share his story and his son's story.
That's going to be a really good show, if you can call it good, But I think that we're less talking about expediting in the case of Jake Gardner and more talking about dragging feet. I think, a lot of time has passed, enough time has passed where something official could have been said or done, where it be a picture. We have nothing. There's no proof, no evidence, nothing. So, I don't trust. So
they've given us absolutely no reason to trust anything about this case. Absolutely no reason to trust anything that they have done. So, So
from the very beginning of it. So, yeah.
Right. All right. So we'll be sure to check that out. It's 101.3 FM or the TuneIn app, right? I think that's
go to the TuneIn app. No subscription is necessary. It'll have a page that says subscribe now. Just tap the X in the right hand corner. You don't need to pay for anything. That is a free radio vid where you can actually listen to any radio show all over the world. It's pretty cool. We're on TuneIn. Just once again, X out the splash page, type in 101.3 FM, Mind and Soul Radio will pop up. You can listen to us Wednesdays at 3 p.m. On TuneIn or on your radio dial. If you live in North and Northeast Omaha, just, dial us up, 101.3 FM. We really appreciate all of our listeners. We appreciate you supporting community radio, because it's a big deal when the community has its own voice. That's a big deal. And I don't think we understand that that's part of taking back that control of what we were talking about in the beginning, because whoever controls the narrative, you know what I'm saying, controls how everyone looks at everything. So for us to be able to have our own narrative is really one of the first steps to freedom. So we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Sure. All righty, Meeka.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you so much for being here. Have a
Absolutely.
good night.
You
All
too.
right.
Kiss the baby for me.
All right. Thanks. Tell the
Bye-bye.
girls hi. All right. Good
I will.
night.
You
Thanks,
too.
everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.